Hello guys and welcome back. Today I want to spend some time just to debunk a few of the common misconceptions that are held regarding depression, and I want to set the record straight for everyone who is a sufferer and a non-sufferer alike. The only way that there is going to be progress is if we talk about these things and if we make them clear and help people to understand. My sources are listed below, comments, and I hope you enjoy, and if you find it valuable, pass it along to someone. Like it, dislike it, subscribe. The ball's in your court. Chat to you soon.
This is the home of the uncommon mind.
Sadness is a temporary emotion that is caused by an event or series of events in someone's life, and given a reasonable amount of time, it will naturally dissipate. The human mind is designed to control sadness in that respect. Depression is a permanent feeling. It is a chronic condition. It can include severe deep sadness, anxiety, negative emotions that become a part of someone's daily life and does not simply go away given reasonable amount of time. Depression is not the same as sadness. I find that one of the biggest reasons that people would prefer to suffer in silence through a mental illness is because there is this misconception that depression is a sign of a weak mind, and that you will be judged as being mentally weaker than your counterparts or your colleagues or your friends. And the exact opposite is true in my experience. The strongest people that I've ever met, the ones who have dragged themselves out of bed every morning, attended to their children, performed their duties at work, continue to live a functional life while being crippled essentially by depression, those are the strongest people on this earth. They have got an endurance and a strength and a faith and a hope about them that few people have. Depression is not mental weakness. A common belief is that depression is caused by a traumatic event in someone's life or memories of an event that have not yet been processed. And although these memories or events can contribute to triggering a depressive episode, depression as a clinical illness is caused by a chemical instability in the body and in the brain, and the resulting emotions are from that chemical imbalance. A traumatic event cannot bear the sole responsibility for depression. Depression is not solely caused by a traumatic event or unresolved memories. I have personally experienced and read and heard stories of people who have claimed that depression is not a real illness. They are not doctors. They do not understand, thus devalue the real impact, the real reality of depression. And although it is not a disease that has visible external symptoms like a broken leg or a wound or an infection or scarring, the reality of this illness is seen all over the world. And if you have not personally experienced what it's like, it is unfair to devalue the disease for those who are genuinely suffering from it. Depression is a real illness. Depression is the cause of suicide. Depression is reality. It is the life that many people have to live. Whilst I was in the mental clinic for 21 days when I was newly diagnosed, I heard very many stories about people who were told that they had received tough love, and that they were told that their sadness and their emotions was simply all in their head. All they needed to do was just snap out of it. And the result of those responses impacted so negatively on them that they fell deeper into this dark hole. Depression is not just a disease of the brain. It is not just a sad spell. It is not just feeling down. Depression is something that grips your life and does not easily let go. If anyone who is depressed had a choice, I can guarantee that no one would choose to be depressed. Nobody would choose this life. It is not simply in our head. It is not something that we are conjuring up or letting go of. This is something that is out of our control. It is a monster that festers. It is something that hides in the dark and will attack when you least expect it. Depression is not all in your head. The misconception that depression is a female-only illness comes from the early and mid-1900s, where depression was categorized as a form of hysteria, and it was only identified then in women because women are more adept and more capable of expressing emotion and understanding emotion than men were at the time. I have also encountered men, my father being one of them, who believed so firmly that he could not get depression, that the results of depression on his life were catastrophic. And only when he had reached a point where it was at his darkest did he realize and accept that he too was suffering from depression. To all the strong men out there who believe that they are immune to this illness, please do not underestimate the severity of this disease. No one is immune. There is no race, there is no gender, there is no religion that this disease does not influence. Depression is not only a female illness. Although having a parent or parents that suffer from depression does give you a greater likelihood of being genetically predisposed and you are at a higher risk, there is only about a 15% chance that you will be depressed by default due to your parents being depressed. The genetic link between depression is something that is still very, very much studied, and it is not a confirmed diagnosis. Just because a parent is suffering from depression does not by default put you in that category. Just because your parents are depressed, it does not mean that you too will be depressed. What it means is that you have a slightly higher risk of suffering from depression in the future, and you must simply be more mindful of your own life to detect it early. Since I have been diagnosed and I have been on medication, there is this perceived idea amongst family and friends and colleagues that because I am on medication, I must now be healed. That I must magically have a complete life turnaround because I take a few pills in the morning and in the night, and that has cured me of depression. The reality is that the amount of chemicals that are out of balance in the human brain are so minute and so precise that medication alone is not the cure to depression. Depression is a combination of medication, lifestyle, and circumstance, all of which need to be balanced exactly. There is no quick fix by simply taking one pill to cure depression. Possibly some of the worst advice that I have ever received from friends and family is that I need to change my attitude and be more positive about life. And although I understand that this comes from a place of love and concern, what this does is it reinforces to anyone who is suffering from depression that they are lesser, that they have become nothing more than negative people, and that they have chosen to be depressed, that they can simply make a conscious effort to change their attitude and to be more positive about life, and they will be healed. Unfortunately, this causes more damage than it does harm. Depression is not something that can be fixed by an attitude adjustment. It is not something that you can fix by simply saying, "Oh, just be more positive." There is no room for positivity when you cannot muster up the courage to get out of bed and clean yourself. Depression is a cycle, depression is a chronic illness, and it cannot simply be fixed by willpower and mental strength alone. It is not something that you can undo that simply. It will be like telling someone who broke their leg, simply just walk it off. Be more positive. It is not about your attitude and your positivity. I think one of the biggest reasons why people may be scared to, first of all, admit that they have depression, and secondly, make the decision to go onto medication is a fear that their personality will change due to the medication. And although the medication is specifically focused to rebalance chemicals in your mind, all that will happen is as the medication starts to rebalance and the harshest effects of depression start subsiding, you will feel more like yourself. And for people who have been suffering from depression for their whole life, the coming of self may be so overwhelming and may be seen by others as a complete change of personality. The reality is that as depression grows, your personality changes. It forces you to change your personality to adapt to your new environment and your new circumstance. Medication does not change your personality. It gives your personality back to you and gives you the room to be the person who you are supposed to be. If you are finding that your personality is changing in a negative way to what you remember yourself, then go to your doctor and discuss it openly, because you might very well be on the incorrect medication. For a very long time, and I am not excluding myself, I believed that depression is purely a mental illness, and that the reason why it is so misunderstood is because there are no physical symptoms. As I fell deeper and deeper into it, and after I got diagnosed as bipolar and I went through all the therapy, I was made aware and began to realize that there are physical symptoms to this mental illness. Lack of sleep, fatigue, weight gain or weight loss, hair loss. These are all physical symptoms that are manifesting due to your mental state. Even an abrupt change of physical behavior can indicate a physical symptom of depression. Especially in a workplace, if you are someone who was a high performer and suddenly you become a low performer, that is a physical symptom of the mental illness. And I do believe that the more people become aware of the physical signs, the less it becomes labeled as simply a phase or laziness and identified as symptoms. I believe a lot more people will get help earlier and they can live much better lives much sooner without having to go any deeper and experience any more of the bad that is this illness. This next one I was on the fence about including, but because I speak from my own background and from a religious background, and because there is a vast majority of the world that is religious, I felt it necessary to include this particular misconception. Depression is not possession. It is not the devil that has decided to come and make home in your mind. It is not demons who are whispering in your ear. Depression is a mental illness. Just as the flu is a physical illness, just as breaking a leg, just as getting HIV, and as cancer, and as a whole list of other diseases that are not categorized as the devil. Depression is an actual clinical illness. You should not have to be scared. You should not fear. You should not believe that you are being punished. You need to seek medical help. A spiritual aspect can actually be incredibly beneficial to healing and to embracing a new lifestyle to become better. Depression is not a sin. Depression is an illness.